Week 3 is in the books, and we have yet another offensive showing. But guess what? We got some waiver targets to help you put some points up and stay in the win column.
It's about that time.
Stoned on Sports.
How's it going, everybody? You're tuned in to Stoned on Sports Fantasy Football. My name is Matt. Got the awesome co-host Kyle here today, and that's right, we're talking waiver targets. And before we jump into that, Jaden Daniels last night was
very impressive.
91% completion rate.
91.3.
Yep. Holy smokes.
Made some really great throws. Just, and not even just deep fades that he's really good at. I mean, he looked really sharp. And, so far out of the rookie QBs, he looks the best so far.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt there. And how much are you panicking if you're a Bengals fan sitting at 0-3?
That's rough. And then, their schedule's not great. You look at it, they could be like 4-10. And then, I'm Jamar Chase. I'm trying to play for a deal. I'm probably not playing, or I ain't going to give my all. And Joe Burrow's going to get hurt again. He's already gotten sacked way too much already. He's on pace for 45, 46 sacks this year. Not looking good there in Cincy.
No, and they just lost one of their offensive linemen.
Yeah, I can't remember.
His name's on the tip of my tongue, but I can't think of it.
It's just so weird with, every time we think that we've wrapped our heads around this game we call football, we're confronted with strange results time and time again. Week 3, you had Malik Willis, Andy Dalton, Sam Darnold were all top 10 quarterbacks. Tyreek and Waddle are currently useless there in Miami, and Juwan Jennings single-handedly won, a lot of matchups for fantasy managers in week 3. But, whether you're 0-3, you're 3-0, me and Matt, we're going to keep scratching away at the waivers for you to help make your roster, the best it can possibly be.
Sure. So, Dubo's in the chat, says the Purple People Eaters are back. Dude, Brian Flores,
great defense.
That dude just has everybody guessing.
Yep.
He's going to blitz a lot, but you don't know where it's coming from. You don't know who's coming. He's doing a hell of a job there.
Yeah, it's nice. And you thought maybe they would take a step back, losing Danielle Hunter in the offseason to Houston.
Yep.
But they did well in free agency as well. Andrew Van Ginkel's done very well. They got Grenard from Houston as a linebacker. He's very good. It's a very good defense. I mean, they've taken out the 49ers and who'd they just beat? Houston. Yeah. I mean, that's 2 very good teams with similar offenses too as well.
It is. Well, I mean, Bobby Slowick comes from the Shanahan tree, exactly. So that makes perfect sense.
It does. Yep. That's why I said
it. J.K. Dobbins, it's looking like he has taken over that backfield there with the Chargers. I think he had something like 83% of the carries. Granted, it was a rough matchup against the Steelers, but I don't think he can continue to carry that load and remain healthy.
No, probably not. But rest assured, if he does get hurt, we will be here with a waiver wire pickup for you that week for sure. But we're going to get it started. We've chatted for almost 4 minutes now. So first guy we got for you, quarterback, Andy Dalton. I'm sure you heard what happened in Carolina. He was the first quarterback this year with 300 passing yards and 3 touchdowns in the same game. He was 26 of 37, so over 70% roughly there. The offense looked totally different with him under center. Carolina scored just 13 points entering week 3. They put up 36, more than that. It's just insane. So Dalton had 24.5 fantasy points, a QB8 finish in week 8. And the Panthers have relevant fantasy players thanks to the Red Rifle. I think he displayed, watching some film, he displayed immediate chemistry with Deontay Johnson. He had 8 catches, 122 and a touch, and really reinvigorated the fantasy value of Chuba Hubbard, who had 169 total yards and a tutty as well. EPA, his expected points per dropback was 7th in the league among QBs, 6th best passer rating. He was 8th in yards per attempt, tied for 6th in PFF passing grade, and a few bad things too. Nothing was really working too far downfield. His ADOT, average depth of target, was 27th in the league, just 6.6 yards, and his time to throw was the worst in week 3, just a tick over 2 seconds. He did face a top 10 pressure rate and was blitzed the most out of all quarterbacks in week 3 at 59%. But he just got sacked 2 times, so not too bad. I think he's a great ad in 2 QB leagues or super flex. And, no one's going to tell you that, he's a clear cut starting quarterback in fantasy. But with bye weeks beginning here in week 5, just around the corner, could be a smart idea to pick somebody up like Andy Dalton now. His next 3 opponents are Cincinnati, Chicago, Atlanta. Those do have much better secondaries than the Raiders, who they just faced. But Dalton's the cheapest streamer you're going to find, especially if you've already blew through a lot of fab already.
Yeah, and it really just goes to show what kind of impact competent quarterback play can have on an offense. Like Andy Dalton is not a Pro Bowler. He's not an all-pro guy, but he is a veteran who understands how to operate an NFL offense. And this is the result that you get.
Yep, for sure. And he's got a revenge game. So Cincinnati comes to Carolina week 4. So, they released him when that was the year they drafted Burrow. I think they sent him packing, wasn't it? Or was it the year after? Might have been the year after. I think it was that year.
Yep. Yeah. 19 was his last year there in Cincinnati, and Burrow got drafted in 20.
All right. Another quarterback, Justin Fields, is QB 19. He's played pretty decently and has a great schedule over the next 3 weeks versus the Colts, the Cowboys, and the Raiders. What do you think, Matt?
I am blown away by this right here. He is 55 of 75. That is a career best 73.3% completion percentage. You know what his previous high was? 61%.
Yeah.
He's thrown for 518 yards, couple touchdowns, and a pick. He's also rushed for 90 yards and another touchdown this past week in a victory over the Chargers. He was 25 of 32 for 245 yards, a TD and a pick. He also rushed for just 6 yards, but he found the end zone. And he is in one of the most conservative offenses in the league, right? Like,
sure.
On a week-to-week basis, I'm sure Tomlin does not want him throwing the ball 32 times or even more than that. But at the same time, he still completed more passes than Derek Carr and Sam Darnold, 2 previous waiver wire darlings from the first couple weeks of the season. But what's the difference there? Well, Justin Fields is averaging 3.8 air yards per attempt. That's tied for 20th in the league. Carr and Darnold are tied for 9th at 4.4. So while that may not seem like that big of a difference, it really, really is. PFF actually has him as the 8th overall QB based on offensive grade and 5th overall in passing grade. And like, I almost just want to call bullshit there. Like, there's just no way he has been the 5th best passer in the game, but it is what it is. At the end of the day, though, for fantasy, his value doesn't come from his arm. It comes from his legs. He ran for over 1,100 yards in 2022, despite missing 2 games. And his rush attempts this season have actually declined each of the first 3 weeks. But there's some injuries in the backfield. It's sounding like Najee Harris is likely going to be fine. Jalen Warren's dealing with a knee issue. His running may be needed more in the next couple of weeks than it has all season long. Yeah. You touched on those 3 next opponents, the Colts, the Cowboys, and the Raiders. They are 3 of the 4 worst run defenses in the league in terms of both total yards allowed and yards per carry. It seems like every year we talk about Pittsburgh and hey, did you know that Mike Tomlin's never had a losing record? I got to say 2 of those 3 games are winnable, the Colts game and the Raiders game. That Cowboys team is going to present more of a challenge, but right now, damn.
Yeah. They got both New York teams too running up to their, I think they got a week 9 bye. Jets might be tougher, but Giants would be good.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of good games.
And really for him, despite the nice and efficient stat line passing this week, I'm not going to count on that being an every week occurrence. For him to have value, he needs to run more, period.
He does.
Yeah. And I think you're going to see some more of that here over the next a couple weeks, especially if Warren misses any time. Now they do have some other members of the backfield there that may be worth a look, and we'll get to that a little bit later. But as the person with the ball in his hands every single time, Justin Fields may not be a bad grab. I think, we can look at somebody like Derek Carr, who certainly came back to earth last week, and there's some other folks out there. Maybe you're somebody who spent just a shit ton of draft capital on Anthony Richardson. Maybe you're looking to bench him. Maybe you're not. I mean, I would make the argument that Fields has played better.
I would definitely agree with you. And his rushing ability is where it's at. Since he entered the league in 2021, he has 11 games where he's had a passing touchdown and a rushing touchdown, trailing only Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts. It's pretty good company. I think I'll still say QB1, QB2 fringe for fantasy. I'm more going to use him just a week-to-week replacement for buys or in very tough matchups for my other quarterback. But he's at least in the middle tier of fantasy quarterbacks.
Sure. And in super flex leagues, he's a rock solid QB2.
Yep.
Definitely. With upside.
Definitely.
Braelon Allen started out this fantasy season as just a handcuff to Breece Hall. But he's quickly carved out a role for himself there on that Jets team. Do you think, maybe not necessarily this week, but in the couple weeks coming, do you think he's got standalone value?
That might be kind of tough. I don't know. Breece is still the man there, where did I put that? No, it's like it's gone. What the heck?
Way to go.
Paul still played 71% of snaps against the Patriots last week. Braelon was just 32%, but he had 14 touches. That was a season high for him. Rushed 11 times for 55 yards. Caught all three of his targets for 13. Finished his RB 30. Some of it might have been game script. The Jets had a pretty commanding lead, but it's hard to say because he's kind of been getting work each game. Second week in a row that he's had more rush yards than Breece Hall. Breece Hall, he's now averaging 5.1 yards per carry in the last two games combined. And he's had a rushing touchdown and a receiving touchdown. And, the workload has increased from week 1 to week 2 to week 3. I think Braelon Allen would be a legitimate starter on several other NFL teams. Definitely. He's built like a brick wall. He's been a nightmare for defenders. He's been watching some film today. He's constantly bouncing off contact. According to PFF, he's generating over 4 yards after contact per rushing attempt this season, which is higher than Breece's. He's right around 3.5. Among the 50 running backs with 15-plus rushing attempts, Braelon has the best PFF rush grade, 15th best receiving grade from PFF. He's 8th best in yards per route run. If you have Breece Hall on your roster and you want a handcuff for him, what the fuck are you waiting for? Because this guy's going to be gone. I think Allen has shown every indication that he's up to the task to play NFL football, and he would be immediately a huge, huge waiver grab if Hall were to miss any time for any reason, really. But he's seeing double-digit touches. His efficiency is great. His physicality is great. I think he should be rostered pretty much in all leagues. They have a pretty favorable matchup in week 4 versus the Broncos. I think you'll probably value him. I do as a RB4. He's got some RB2 upside whenever he would find the end zone. So good grab. He's somebody that I will grab and stash for sure. I have a lot of good running backs in most of the leagues, but he's talented.
Hell yeah, he is. I mean, the dude is a brick shit house. And if Breece were to get hurt or miss time, he is a plug and play RB1. You want to talk about hitting the hole. Like, this dude hits the hole, and where there is no hole, he creates one.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just a damn monster.
Yeah, huge. Another running back. So Andy Dalton took over at quarterback. We just talked about that for the Panthers, and I think Chuba Hubbard was a huge beneficiary in the run game in week 3, averaging 5.4 yards per carry. In fact, only 6 of his 21 carries went for fewer than 4 yards. Is it time to trust Hubbard?
Well, trust is a pretty strong word there. What a difference a QB can make. And we talked, about Andy Dalton, obviously, earlier, but that offense just looks so much better with him under center. He had 21 rush attempts, 114 yards, 5 targets, 5 grabs, 55 yards, and scored a receiving touchdown. And thanks to a nearly 28-point performance, he's the RB 19 in PPR so far. And it really looks like, there was a lot of questions about this team coming into the season, and Bryce Young just looked like complete ass. But that offensive line looks like it's going to be a plus for this team. And the RBs are going to benefit.
Yeah.
Right now, his 2.3 yards before contact ranks 10th best in the league. And among running backs with 35 or more carries, he has the fewest tackles for loss, just one, for -2 yards. His 5.2 yards per carry is tied for 4th among that same group. He's also in the top 15 overall in yards after contact with 106 and yards after contact per attempt at 2.9. So that's showing you like he can be difficult to bring down. His carries have increased each game this season from 6 in week 1 to 21 this past week. I don't really think he's going to go much beyond that, if at all, but a running back getting 20 touches a week should not be on waivers. There's a decent chance he's going to be in line for more targets with Adam Thielen hitting the IR. Their next game is against a reeling Bengals defense that literally could not get off the field against the Washington Commanders. Washington didn't have a lot of success running the ball, but they were consistent with it. Overall, his upcoming schedule does have some solid run defenses, but none in the top 10, at least according to PFF. Right now, I think he's a low-end RB2, high-end flex play in PPR leagues. I don't necessarily know that I want to trust him, and he may be somebody whose relevance and contributions has an expiration date. Obviously, they've got Brooks sitting there and waiting, but it's not like they're just, going to bring him in week 5 and say, okay, take 20 carries. And you've got Miles Sanders there.
Poached a goal line carry from Hubbard too.
Yeah, he's kind of lurking in the shadows, waiting to snipe some carries there. But overall, now that they have a passing game that defenses have to respect, that opens up so much more of the field. And with it's not great offensive line play, but it's solid offensive line play, creating holes for him to run through. Yeah, I mean, use him while you can, ride him while he's hot.
Yeah, got Cincinnati week 4, Chicago week 5 might be tougher, and then Atlanta after that. It's a pretty good schedule. Not too bad the next 3 weeks. Pretty good. His 169 yards, his scrimmage yards, that was a career high for him.
I
Pretty
believe
good
it.
stuff. And no Panther has hit that total scrimmage yard since 2021. I'm sure it was probably McCaffrey.
Oh, yeah. It'd have to be. And that's a franchise that's been, not the greatest here for a few years.
Well, it starts from the top, and I think that guy's just Tepper's just too meddling in the football side. Just go manage your hedge funds and shit, dude.
Yeah, he dumped a drink on a fan.
Yeah, last year. That's right. I forgot about that. Okay.
If I dump a drink on him, my ass is getting thrown out and banned for life. It's still worth the temptation, though. He's
sure is.
So we touched earlier on that backfield there in Pittsburgh, and when Arthur Smith had his unceremonious exit from Atlanta, it seems like he brought his best friend with him in Cordarrelle Patterson. He's not widely owned, but Jaylen Warren is a question mark going into this week. What are your thoughts on him?
It is nice with the Arthur Smith connection there. And looking right now, Jaylen Warren's probably not going to play. It looks like Najee will, like we mentioned before. But Patterson, I think, would be poised to be next man up there. He's familiar with Smith, and he has a history of doing well in fantasy in these, spot, I won't say starts, but or he's fine, gets thrust in because of an injury and ends up always producing. It's nice. He was on the field 34% of Steelers offensive snaps on Sunday, which was tied with Jaylen Warren. But Patterson saw more work and was more efficient with his touches than Warren was. He was 4 for 33, got 5 targets, caught 3 of them for 15 yards. And I think he looked great in that limited action. The dude's almost 34 years old, but looking at the tape, he's still playing with, pretty good intensity. He's averaging almost 5 a carry, 4.9 and 4.2 yards after contact per attempt. And we touched on when we were talking about a lot of Steelers and some Panthers and as well, but Fields could get more rushing opportunities. Maybe Cordarrelle doesn't end up getting it, but I think they're in for the long run there. They got a sharp team. Don't put Justin Fields in harm if you can help it. The designed runs. Yeah, he's always going to improvise and get some rushes that way. But I don't think they're going to go entirely away from a back to base run game. For now, it's kind of a speculative ad till we know really more about Harris and Warren. He's not going to, receive top touches when either of those two guys are healthy, but I think he could be a good flex piece in a pinch if one of those guys are out. They got a favorable matchup in week 4 against the Colts. They keep getting gashed in the run game. If you're, in need at running back position and can spare the roster spot, consider at least bringing him on, as a short-term Band-Aid and maybe a potential investment for later on. You never know.
That's it. And really, when you're talking about waiver wire targets and specifically running backs, like you're just talking opportunities. You just want somebody who's going to get touches. And Patterson has shown throughout his career that when you get him the ball, especially in space, he can take that shit to the house.
Yeah, he's damn good. Damn good. He frustrated Bijan owners last year, taking some touches away from him as well. And Algier did too, but Patterson still looks good. 33 years of age. It's crazy.
And we got Dubo with a question in the chat about Bucky Irving. Rashad White is cooked. I mean, the guy is averaging like 2.1 yards a carry this season.
I mean, Bucky it was shitty last year too. It was so shitty last year.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, it's like he's the only professional football player who skips leg day. Like he just has zero ability to break any tackles whatsoever. He's somebody that just kind of piddle fucks into the hole. He doesn't hit that shit hard. He doesn't burst through it. Now he's great coming out of the backfield. He's an excellent receiver. Bucky Irving just looks so much more explosive as an overall runner. Yeah. And who's their dickhead coach?
Bowles.
Yeah, Todd Bowles. There you go. Thanks for helping me out.
Yep.
He even come out this week saying that Bucky Irving is, he's done a great job and he's earned more touches. So I know he's been kind of a hot waiver wire target here over the past few weeks, but if he's available in your league, absolutely give him a shot.
Okay. All right. A couple wide receivers here. Alan Lazard has seen 5 red zone targets so far this year. And with Pat Surtain most likely shadowing Garrett Wilson in week 4, should we expect another good fantasy performance from him?
I think it's reasonable to expect that. Let me get that shit.
Oh, sorry. I was doing it at the same time you were.
Somehow the wide receiver 15 in PPR is just hanging out on waivers in 70% of leagues. He's coming off a 3-target, 3-grab, 48-yard, 1 touchdown effort. That was his 3rd touchdown of the season. Make no mistake, though, this dude is not a high volume play. His 16 targets have him tied for 43rd, and his 17.4% share of team targets is just 50th. However, 5 of those targets have come in the red zone, second most in the league. Those are the high-quality targets. And that's what we want, the high quality. You can't deny he's got excellent chemistry with Aaron Rodgers. He has a 137.5 rating when targeted. He is, however, going to be inconsistent and likely touchdown dependent. Nathaniel Hackett is also kind of a concern there because outside of Press Taylor in Jacksonville, he might be the worst offensive coordinator in the league, but he's buddies with and gets bailed out by Aaron Rodgers.
Shane Waldron would like a word because I don't know what they've been doing in Chicago.
Yeah, there's some struggles there.
Yeah.
And I just found out earlier today, Press Taylor is Zach Taylor's brother.
Oh,
I had no idea.
I didn't know that either.
Look, right now he's the wide receiver 15 in PPR, but just because of what I believe to be inconsistency, I think he's more of a wide receiver 3 flex type any given week. But there is that upside there when he scores. I mean, he scored 3 times right now. He's on pace for 17 touchdowns. And don't you just love when you can play with the on pace stuff like that? Now, is he going to score 17? Absolutely fucking not.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
he's off to a good start. I think there's a chance that he can maybe sniff 10. I don't necessarily know that he'll get there, but I mean, for somebody to catch 8 or 9 and give you, 700-800 yards, something like that. It's, there's worse options out there, especially in deeper leagues or leagues where you're starting 3 receivers and 2 flexes. He's definitely rosterable and playable in some instances as well.
Yeah. I mean, he's a flex. It's going to be boom or bust. You're either going to be happy or you're going to be pissed. But that connection with Rodgers and the way that Lazard has really established himself as a key part of that offense, it's a great ad. It's a great ad. Depth is good.
So this offseason, all the hype in Atlanta was around Kirk Cousins there. And, everybody was falling all over each other to draft Drake London. And it's been Darnell Mooney. It's been showing up.
Yeah, I mean, this guy was back in 21, finished the season as wide receiver 23 in Chicago, but since then he's became nearly irrelevant, in fantasy football. But he's found a home in Atlanta and is making a very strong case for flex consideration in most leagues. He's averaging 16 points, fantasy points per game in the last 2 weeks. Drake London's the only other player that's seen more targets than him, 19 to Mooney's 18. And Kirk Cousins seems to trust him. And hell, maybe you should too. I'm looking at him as well. The strong back-to-back performances there in week 2 and 3 were great. Week 2, he caught 3 of 7 for 88 and a tutty. Week 3, he really built on that momentum, caught all 8 of his targets for 66 yards, and he's wide receiver 35 in PPR through 3 weeks. Now, he saw most of his targets, mostly short routes or even behind the line of scrimmage, and some plays I saw, kind of becoming a safety valve for Kirk Cousins in the passing game there for Atlanta. And I think that's honestly a good thing in PPR leagues. Huge. Among 41 wide receivers with 18 plus targets so far this year, he has 11th best yards per reception, 5th best in yak per reception. I didn't see that. 7th best passer rating when targeted, 17th in yards per route run, 39th in route participation. That's kind of low. However, he does line up about equal time in the slot and out wide. And his PFF receiving grade's kind of middling at 69.7. So Drake London's the clear alpha there, but Mooney's really emerged as the second option in a role that many expected Kyle Pitts to fill, and he just hasn't really shown through yet. So with the improved QB play, the talent on that team to keep defenses honest, Mooney's speed and the deep ball ability, I think it's huge. He's a priority pickup in all leagues heading into week 4 against a matchup versus the Saints.
I think he was a really underrated addition to that offense because Drake London, for all his talent and ability, he's not somebody that's going to get down the field. Kyle Pitts, not really going to get down the field. And Kirk Cousins has shown us over the past couple seasons there when he was with the Vikings, that dude likes to chuck that fucking pig.
He'll throw the deep ball, man.
He does. And Mooney has that top end speed to get down the field and help open things up for Pitts and for Bijan and for Drake London. And I don't want to say like I'm kicking myself with hindsight, but at the same time, this is like some of the obvious stuff that we should have seen coming into the season. Now, there were question marks around Kirk Cousins and his rehab coming back from, his Achilles tear. And not to get off topic, but did you see that Christian McCaffrey went to Germany to get treatment on his Achilles?
Yeah, because they lead. Germany's a big leader in stem cell research and stuff like that. So I was reading the article. This doctor is a fantasy guy, and he was saying, I mean, he would expect that the stem cell thing would have already been done, weeks ago, instead of now. Like, I don't think CMC is going to be back for a while. I don't
think so either.
Yeah, if at all.
You think he might miss the whole year?
I think it's possible. I think it's very possible. Some of that research on that stem cell, is good. And what I was reading today is, it takes usually anyway from 90 to 120 days for you to even start feeling the effects from it. So if you take it now, we'll go worst case scenario 4 months out. That's
playoff
season. So we'll see. But yeah, Mooney. You got anything else on him? Sorry, we did go on a little tangent there, but yeah, very interesting. Fly out to Germany, have some Wiener Schnitzel and beer. So
I want to go to Oktoberfest one of these years.
Yeah, that would be fine. Or just Amsterdam would be fine too.
Well, that's not Germany, but still.
I know it's not, but it's
try and stay on topic here.
A short train ride away. Cole Kmet is one of 7 tight ends in the league to play at least 70% of snaps and has run the 3rd most routes on the team. Matt, can Kmet be seen as a tight end too? Week 4 versus the Rams?
I think he'd be seen as a tight end 1, and it really speaks to the state of the position that he can be the tight end 3 because of one good game where he had 11 targets, 10 grabs, 97 yards, and he scored a touchdown. And to give you a frame of reference, in the previous 2 games, he had 6 targets, 5 grabs for 31 yards. And I will say, like, I'll throw this out there. I'm hesitant to invest in that passing offense, just given how things have looked. But at the same time, 15 of his 17 total targets have been catchable, and he leads all tight ends with 4 red zone targets. I know coming into the year, we all saw how stacked the wide receiver room there was projected to be, but he's still 10th at the position with a 15.3% target share. But Keenan Allen being out certainly helps. 1/3 of his receptions have gone for 10 or more yards, and he's 2nd at the position with 140 air yards, which I did not expect. Overall, he's 5th in targets, 3rd in grabs, 6th in yards, and 1st in first in touchdowns among tight ends. Now, granted, it's just 1 touchdown, but again, like, this position has just been shit so far this year. He is someone that plays in line most of the time, but they will move him around the formation. He's even got, about 10 snaps in the backfield. At the end of the day, I think the struggles with the offensive line are going to hold this offense back. Yeah. But at the same time, the tight end is a quarterback's best friend. And, especially when it comes to rookie quarterbacks and, Caleb Williams, everybody was expecting him to come in and just have the kind of season this year that CJ Stroud had last year. And it kind of sucks when that happens because people lose sight of the fact that a season like that is the outlier. That should never be expected from a rookie quarterback. But here we are. I'm somebody who, in leagues, I've got Mark Andrews, who gave me a goose egg. Evan Ingram, who's hurt. And then I picked up Hunter Henry, who had, a great game the week I picked him up. And then last week he did, jack shit
squat.
for me. Trey McBride, I've got in a league who's in concussion protocol. So the fact that, Kmet is available in more than half of leagues, despite the state of the position, is kind of surprising to me. Now, granted, he didn't really do much to inspire confidence those first 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he's shown us, over the past couple of years that he's somebody who can be productive for fantasy purposes.
He can. And I watched all his targets today, and it looks like Caleb Williams finally figured out that targeting him over the middle was a smart move, because it seemed to work out on many of those. And Caleb threw the ball 52 times, I think.
Yeah, I don't think
And
that's
that's
going
a
to be
lot.
happening much more.
No, it's not. But with how bad the offensive line is, he'll throw 35 times a game, I bet, the rest of the year.
Probably, because they're not getting anything out of the run game. I know last Thursday, I was kind of hyped on DeAndre Swift just because of how bad that Colts rush defense has been. But that offensive line just got no push.
Yeah,
whatsoever.
It's horrible. And you saw, Khalil Herbert was more involved week 2. This week, in week 3, it was Rashawn Johnson was more involved. But, with as many times as I think they might throw, I think that could keep Kmet more involved than most tight ends. And tight ends so thin. God, it's the thinnest ever. And it's really, you're streaming them just like defenses and kickers.
It is. And it's funny because it seems like every year coming into the season, tight end so deep this year, and I'll be fine waiting on tight end, just give me, I'll take, the 9th tight end off the board, or the 10th. And then like every year, like clockwork, tight end is shit because outside of the top, we'll call it 5 dudes, it's a crapshoot any given week.
I think Kmet's the best out there. Rams, Panthers, and Jaguars next 3 weeks leading up to their week 7 bye. That's good stuff.
Yeah, it is.
Yep, that's good stuff. And he might surprise some folks. Yeah, he might take a shit too.
Well, I would hope so, because that'd get painful after a while.
Well, yeah, I suppose it would. Yeah, you'd have to get some enemas. Fantasy Football League, podcast listener league. Up on the screen, Drew's Dumpster Fire, 3-0. Only undefeated team. I'm 2-1 with a bunch of other people. You're 1-2.
Second in scoring.
Yep, you do have a ton of. Yeah, you're just 9 points behind Drew in scoring. That's good. So you're gonna bounce back.
I hope so, because like in the baseball league, it was a grind to get my way into the playoffs, and unfortunately, I wasn't able to finish things off. But, scored a shit ton of points. And now here we are with football, the same thing. And I'm like, I ain't trying to get fisted here. Like, help a brother out.
And Dubo, Green Giant, he's 2-1. He's won 2 in a row after starting week 1 with a ding. But,
defending champion is 0-3, AJ.
Let me throw it back on. Oh, yeah, AJ's TD squad. He sure is. Wow. His points are middle-ish. But, yeah, that's not good. That is not good at all.
I like how you've had more scored against you than you've scored, but you're 2-1.
Yep. It's the way it works out. It's the
way she goes.
Way she goes. Anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think I'm good, dude.
Do you I hate these 2 Monday night game things, and they're doing it again in week 4. I despise it. It was okay on week 1 because it was week 1, but when they did it last year, the last few years, they didn't do it this year. But I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
Me either. That, or when they used to do it, they would have a 7:30 kick and then a 10 o'clock kick or something like that. But now it's like 7:30 and 8:15 or something like that.
Yeah.
And I get wanting to get them both in, but at the same time, like, I want to watch both games. Like, if you're going to have them on, at the same time like that, give me Red Zone.
Right. Or get yourself YouTube TV and you get the 2 screens.
Yeah, that's true. I do have YouTube TV.
Yeah. We're plugging YouTube TV now. Sign us up for a sponsor there, please. With our 23 subscribers.
Yeah. Don't hold your breath on that one.
This is our newer channel. We do have a baseball channel with 380 some subscribers, so we're not total newbies at this, but fantasy football's here. Week 4, I should say. So we'll be back Thursday night. We're going to preview week 4. We'll be back Thursday night at 7 p.m. now instead of 8 p.m. because baseball is now over with. We'll have a bunch of starts and sits for you. Actually, I'll have a bunch of starts
for
you. And I'll take your questions live as well. Matt has a prior engagement, so I'll be going solo. Have to be patient with me if you're on here asking questions. I'll get to them, between players.
Yeah, hopefully you don't just, get on here and beat yourself. That would kind of suck.
That would be, I think YouTube would probably take me down. So if I was on here solo beating myself, but yeah. All right. We're going to get out of here. Stay stoned, everyone. Have a good night.